All right. I will go ahead and get us started. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of your morning, especially on this summer day. I know a lot of you have started your summer vacations. A lot of you are in summer school right now, but we appreciate that you're taking your time to be with us today. Today kicks off our first series of Today kicks off our first series of virtual learning with our partnerships through the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, aka DESE, Mo Shape, and then educators across the state. I do ask that you please mute yourself during this time. We will have time to engage during our time here today, and this should be about an hour long. So at any point, at some point, we'll have our features that we'll talk about here that you can use. Today's session is our first webinar, and it's on standards-based assessment. Title there that you see, what does that mean? If you think about, obviously, the times we're in now, when we do re-enter our schools, whether that is virtual, whether that is a blended learning, or if you are fortunate enough to be in person with your students, the thing that's going to matter the most are still the standards. No matter what your situation is in your schools, the standards will always matter. So we will talk about that today. And through these next couple Wednesdays, it'll be a great progression. The following week, we'll have a presenter on rubrics. And then the week after that, we'll have a presenter on social emotional learning. So a couple quick thank yous. Obviously, my face is there. My name is Sean Nevels. I am the Director of Health and Physical Education. I haven't even introduced myself. And then also Laura Beckman, who works with DESE as well. She's the Director of Missouri Healthy Schools. So we're kind of partnering in this effort to help you all, regain, not necessarily regain, but gain those skills as educators that you already have, but just kind of reteach and go over things that matter as we re-enter. Couple other recognitions we would like to bring out are Tom Lowry, who's our director, our executive director of Mo Shape. We have Tara Lynn Gardner, who is board of directors representative for Mo Shape and also Shape America Central District president. We have Brenda Goodwin on the very end of the picture, far right there, who's our presenter today, and also the 2016 Mo Shape Dr. Kathleen Kinderfather Award recipient. And then Dr. Patrick Fine right here. He's on with us as well today from Rockwood Summit and Mo Shape President-elect. So I'd like to thank them for being a part of this. Couple features as we go through our webinar series is they will be recorded. We will send out where they'll be housed. I know they'll be on a couple different locations, especially the Missouri State Continuing website, Continuing Ed website, and on the DESE website, as well as hopefully Mo Shape as well. We will have live polling during this time, once again, to keep us engaged. Reactions, I love those, always love those. If you are on right now and you know where your reaction is, go ahead and give me a thumbs up or a hand clap to make sure you're there. There we go. We got a couple different thumbs up. We have live thumbs up and then the reaction thumbs up in the top left of the screen. Thank you very much. We also have the chat box feature. So I know we have a lot of people that are coming on. If you did not register through the Missouri State website, Cody Brewington, our co-host, will be sending you a message throughout this webinar for you to sign up, and you can possibly receive credit that way. And then annotate. We'll throw that in at one point where you can throw check marks in, probably your own text, so on and so forth. All right, so first thing first is tell us who you are. Right now, hopefully a poll popped up for you to answer a couple questions. We want to know what your grade level, the grade level is that you teach. How many minutes or times per week do you teach your students or do you see your students? And you can estimate that. What is your average class size? A couple different options there, less than 20, 20 to 25, 25 to 35, and over 35. And then how many years have you been teaching? Kind of gives us a lay of the land to know who you are, who we have on representing us today. I'll give you about a minute now to finish that as people are answering those questions. Who we have today. So, mainly a K-5 crew. We appreciate those middle school and high school educators that came on with us today. Most of you have your students obviously 1 day a week, especially when you think about elementary in the state of Missouri. Most of the time you have your students for 1 day, about 50 minutes. Nobody necessarily above that. Couple that do have 5 days a week. I'm interested to hear about that. Average class size, 20 to 25 for most of our respondents. Some in the upper range there from 25 on up. And then our experience, mainly 11 to 20 years, so good. Couple early educators in there, and then plenty of them with the 20 plus experience. So thank you very much for responding. And from here, we will get started, and I will kick it off to our presenter of the day, the Brenda Goodwin.
Okay, thanks, Sean. So we have 3 objectives, and we really have quite a bit to accomplish today as we're limited time with lots of stuff to discuss. And I do want to say at any time, if you have a question, chime in. We will type it out in the chat room, and Sean, as our host, will be able to address it or help me address it. So basically, the 3 things we're going to do today. We're going to review our SHAPE national standards, and we're going to try to make them actually meaningful to you, and try to break them down and make them easier to remember. Then we're going to discuss grading and assessing. And lastly, we're going to define and analyze our standards-based assessments. How do we use them? Why do we use them? And so forth. So those are our objectives for today. And so the next thing we want to do is actually talk about our 5 national standards that SHAPE America has set up for us. You will notice as you look at those, the physically literate individual continues to be stated in those. And so I want to go through exactly what it means to be physically literate. 2 words come to mind: competency and confidence, both things that we try to instill in our students. And those things are basically what physical literacy means, that our students are competent and confident, say that fast 25 times, in a wide variety of activities in multiple environments, and that we totally develop the entire healthy child. So the first one, you'll notice that verb says demonstrates competency in a wide variety of motor skills, movement patterns. We think of that primarily as elementary, but we know that through our entire life, we can continue to develop competency and work on movement patterns and so forth. Standard 2, that verb in there says we're going to apply, so a little bit higher level knowledge of our concepts, our principles, our strategies, our tactics. So we're going to take everything that those motor skills that we've learned, and we're going to apply them as we apply them to sports and other activities. 3, standard 3 goes more to individuals, and that we give our individual students the knowledge and the skills they need to achieve health enhancing a level of health enhancing, physical activity and fitness, so that kids begin to realize this is important stuff. 4 and 5, both are standards that we all physically exhibits responsible personal and social behavior, respects themselves, respects others, respects the environment they're in, and so forth. And then standard 5, where the physically literate person recognizes and values physical activity for social enjoyment, for challenge, for self-expression, for social interaction. And I don't know about all of you, but I sure am missing sports right now in these last few weeks. Every night I want to turn on the TV and watch Cardinal baseball. So I'm definitely having some problems without very many sports around. So what we'd like to do next is we took all these, but let's put them into just 3 or 4 words that we can use to help us remember each one of these 5. I did standard 1 for you, and it mostly is motor skills and movement. If we just summarize it, that's what we're talking about. So what we'd like to do is break up into some breakout rooms, and each one of you take a standard. We're going to give a room a standard, and then we're going to come back and talk about what can we use, how can we summarize standard 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, Sean, are you ready to put us into some rooms?
Definitely. So you'll be breaking out here into a room soon. to talk about the standards.
So if each of the 4 rooms can, were we in 4 rooms, can contribute, and let's see if we can put these together for standards 2, 3, 4, and 5 to make them usable and understandable.
So anybody just willing to share kind of what you talked about in your rooms about the standards and what they mean, and just kind of, you know, simple phrases for each standard. Like the first one, we have motor skills and movement. You know, what did the second one mean to you? What does that sound like? What, you know, what phrases or words could you come up with for standard 2?
I'll contribute one that when I was in room 4, we went with the word strategies and tactics. I think that's what we said. And I love how to move, you know, and apply that how to move. Yeah, good. Yeah. So we could say how to apply how to move using strategies and tactics. That sound pretty good? Thumbs up for everybody?
Good, good, good.
Okay, how about standard 3? Oh, good. Apply concepts and strategies. I like that one, Anna. Standard
Yeah,
3.
you should be able to unmute yourself if you feel like talking.
Okay.
Oh, now I can. Okay, cool. I couldn't unmute myself before.
Should we move on to 3? We don't want to, we gotta kind of move along. We got lots to do.
We put healthy, active lifestyle.
Yeah. That was more of an individual one for each kid, don't you think? Or each student. Don't want to say kid. Sounds like they're little baby goats. I like healthy, active lifestyle. Explain the why of healthy, active lifestyle. Can we move on to 4? Is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. What about 4? What did
We said standard 4 was more accountability, personal, taking ownership and personal accountability.
Yep. And somebody said sportsmanship. That was really good. Kindness, integrity, safety. I like that one too. I sometimes just say SEL, social emotional learning. Don't know how much that means to kids, but it helps me remember.
It is a lot of, SEL is definitely standard 4 and standard 5.
How about standard 5? Oh, I like that. Value others and their skill sets. Teamwork. All right. Does that help everyone make those standards more meaningful? That you could actually, I don't know if you post standards in your gym, but to you they mean something now. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I think we're very visual creatures. So I went to my little animation factory, and I just found some things that I thought we could visualize. The little girl skipping and then throwing the ball, like a strategy that she knows what a force out is and she can throw to second base or whatever. The third one up there, the little lady bending over, touching her toes, the yoga person, she's our personal individual fitness. Good job, the sportsmanship, SEL, and the last group is the spelling TEAM. So I kind of thought, maybe those will give us some visuals of ways that we can remember each of the standards. So just little things for you to think about and remember. So let's go on to talk a little bit about assessments and so forth. So if you'll look, I I thought we probably needed to lay some groundwork or some foundation and talk about our programs a little bit before we talked about assessment, because I thought these things were all really important. You all know them, the essential components to physical education, policy, environment, that we would like, we're a core subject, no waivers, follow state guidelines, we have certified teachers, and I know we fight that waiver one just about every few years. It tends to come up and we want to have waivers, and we've done an amazing job of not allowing that in some respects. Curriculum, obviously updated, clearly written, sequential, comprehensive, appropriate instruction. The recommendation is that class size are the same as the other class sizes. That doesn't always happen. Vigorous activity, various instructional practices, and so forth. And then student assessment, which is what we're talking about today. Gathering evidence about their students' achievements and about their progress. And it should be based on evidence. And so that's, again, what we're looking at. So let's look about standards-based assessment. Obviously, the assessment is aligned with our national state standards, grade level outcomes. It is in the written curriculum along with the protocols. It's evidence-based, measures student achievement in all areas of instruction, including fitness. As I look at standards-based assessment, it becomes almost as important to the teacher as it is to the student, because I think it's a good way to communicate expectations to our students. What is mastery? What is understanding of knowledge? What are we going to expect from students? Then the teacher can determine how and what to teach, so the students can fulfill our expectation. I think that's fair to our kids, that we say from the beginning, here's what we're going to do, and we're going to fulfill this goal, and here's how we're going to do it. If we go to the next slide, we get into two different kinds of assessment, which I know you all have done this and are wonderful at it. But just as a little review, our formative assessment, that's what we do for learning. How are our students' needs being addressed? Are they catching on to the concepts we're talking about? Our goal is to collect information to improve instruction and learning while it's happening, so that when we reach the end, we all can reach our goals. And I look at formative assessment as a way for us to see, are we successful in this unit, if you want to talk about it, or throughout the whole semester as far as that goes. But I tend to break it down into more usable time frame. But they are assessments for learning. So let's identify needs, let's identify problems, let's see how I can be more effective. And then we get to that summative assessment, and that's where we look at, have these kiddos learned? Have they achieved that goal that we're looking at? So it's our assessment of learning. Have they learned what they've been taught? So I found a little soup analogy there, where the formative assessment is when the chef tastes the soup, but the summative is when the guests taste it. So that's when we make our final, I guess I don't know if final is the right word, but we make a more a judgment that's closer to the end of what's going on. So we have those formative and summative assessments. So what's the difference between assessment and grading? Obviously, when we're doing assessments, we're gathering evidence and looking at our students. What are they achieving? Again, I look at assessment as much for me as I am for the students. When, all of you know, I teach a lot of dance, and when I have taught a whole dance and I put the music on and it just goes haywire, wow, it's not time to assess, it's time to go back and reestablish and go through stuff again. So in a way, maybe that's my formative assessment and not my summative. And then that grading is our way of reporting. This is what our students know. This is how they demonstrate. This is how they have met the content standards. Questions? Comments? So I think that if you go to that next one, are you grading or are you assessing? If I ask you, if I looked at your grade book, what would I see mostly in your grade book? Are you using grading to evaluate learning, or have you incorporated criteria that are not direct measures of learning, like attendance, participation, effort? I'm not saying good, bad, or otherwise, just what are your grades based on? Are they based on judgment, or are they based more on science, I guess, and not just observation, but more on things that are actually that can actually be measured? And then assessment should help us improve student learning and help us improve as educators. So my question is, what do you assess? And how do you use this assessment? So somebody chime in and tell me some things that you assess or some things that you grade on. What's in your grade book?
We do a monthly pacer test just as one of our cardiovascular days. So we have the kids actually kind of graph their progress on that as well. So they, it's part of their goal setting, and then trying to just beat themselves, like beat their personal score from the month before.
Okay, so that's kind of standard 3 of your individual improvement. It's not like a class grade, or
no, I mean, like, I don't say you have to get a certain score. I just want them to try to beat themselves.
Right. Okay, anybody else?
In my grade book, I have a weekly grade based on attitude, participation, sportsmanship, some of those things.
Okay, and this we'll get into in our next session. Do you have a rubric that the students understand what that grade means and what they have to do to get their, I don't know if you do points or how?
So everyone starts out with 5 points for the week, and then if they're not participating, then they would lose a point. That by the end of the week, then they will have a score 1 through 5.
So it's there and it's yours to lose.
Correct.
More or less, huh? Okay. All right. Any others normally use rubrics for skills?
We use rubrics for skills. We're lucky that we have PE every single day, and so for every unit we assess 4 skills, and the teachers have rubrics that they follow and teach the students what those rubrics are. And then the students also assess their own skills. That's just standard 1. That's how we assess standard 1. So the teacher and student scores are equally weighed.
Cool. Good. And what level is that? Is that elementary or
Middle school?
Middle school. Okay. Good. Well, for the sake of time, we have, I think we can go to our next questions there. Sean, if you can see those, there we go. We have a poll, so let's see how we can do on this and see if we can fill out these questions. And then we're going to come back and discuss them a little bit. Okay, so 3/4 of us are saying that we can differentiate between standards and activity-based. I'll go through these and then I have some questions for you. Let's look at what is most important. It's pretty, what, about 1/4 of you or 1/5 of you said standard 1, and then about 1/3 of you said 3. And then so it looks like I'm going to have to go with 1, 3, and 4. Looks like the big winners today. All 5 standards is kind of divided. A little more than 50% say no. And over 3/4 of us do assess outside of fitness testing. So if we want to, we can either go into breakout rooms again and discuss these, or if you want to just do it kind of now with open to everyone. One of my questions is, do you use both types of assessments, both standard-based and activity-based? Is there any value to both of, or is there a value to using both of them? Anybody there? Sean, you want to just let's go into breakout rooms? That might work better.
So yeah, let's go into breakout rooms and let's talk about the standards, and let's be mindful of the situation, you know, with the thought of what schools may or may not look like. So when we go into the breakout rooms, talk about the standards and how they're going to matter more or less during this time of COVID-19, and once again, the uncertainty of the schools. So we'll go into breakout rooms and just have that discussion and be ready to share when we come back about, you know, how you feel about those standards, how, you know, that's going to matter or not, once again, not matter during reentry for schools and during those first, you know, few weeks of your teaching. So
right, and what the future could hold for our teaching and how will we make that transition. The breakout room I was in came to some really good conclusions. I'd like to have some of you others share with me what you all concluded, and then I'll share with you what we concluded. How about that? So what did you all decide as far as what is important in the world that we're in right now? We clarify standards. Let me see that one. Could we clarify standards and assessment based before moving on? Sure. Okay, I'm not sure I understand how to, Sean, if you want to chime in, you can. The standards are the 5 standards that we talked about with SHAPE. Oh, it's okay. Don't say it. And what we're trying to do is maintain that our instruction is follows those standards. It is sequential from grade to grade. It is part of our curriculum that we are able to show that our students are making progress. We're measuring achievement. Have I said that right? Does that make sense? I'm going to go back to these chats, see what else. Does that help that we, or did I just make it muddier? I will, I'll tell you what our group kind of decided as far as standards, and then you all can agree or disagree and chime in. We kind of immediately jumped on standards 3 as being very important. That part of being and individually being active and healthy and leading a healthy, active lifestyle. But then we also chimed in and thought that the standards 4 and 5 were also very important, that our kiddos are wanting social interaction. They miss their friends. So we talked about ways that they could have exercise buddies and exercise together via Zoom or media, or even an exercise buddy that you meet at the track and you exercise together but maintain your social distance. I don't know if that will be acceptable in the future. I do have friends as adults that did that to keep each other you know, still on their program. We know exercise buddies help us out as adults. So how about some of the rest of you? What did you feel was the important standards for you to focus on during this rather strange time that we're in, not really knowing how our schools are even going to look in the next semester or even the rest of 2020? What do you think?
Our group kind of looked at the differences based on where we're all located, and that each one of us is going to have a different comeback procedure. The district per se I was in is in North County and was hit pretty hard by COVID and still is being hit by COVID. So our district that I'm not going to be at next year is looking at doing partial comeback, where some kids come back one day, some the other. And then we discussed other schools that are coming back and like limiting equipment that's going to be accessible or available for students. And so how to kind of approach that. So more so, I guess, the real life side of it and kind of grazing over some of the standards versus, activity, like how do we get into this? And then we also started discussing the trauma that our kids are going to be coming in with and how relationships are going to be key for us in the fall.
Right. Kind of right along with what we were saying with that social interaction and just the way their lives were upended, for some kids, right?
And that really speaks to standards, for sure. As educators, we're that's probably going to be a big part when we come back to schools, is addressing standard 4 and the social emotional learning and well-being of our students.
Absolutely. Which leads us to, I love standard 5 because it leads us to that something in their life that they can participate in, be enjoyable, and almost a relief from, I think that's why I miss baseball so much, because that's the summertime, that fun thing that you got to do, and that's gone. That activity of watching sports and I'm in awe of some of the athletic abilities of the pro athletes. So yeah, group 4, let me go to my chats here. A couple of you. Standard 3 is what someone is saying. So they recognize the importance of physical activity. Standard 4, to build relationships. And group 4 said how to incorporate standard 1, give them a skill, have them develop one skill to work on. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, especially if we don't get back, then is that kind of what group 4 was saying? Give them a challenge. How about you work on your jump rope skills? And is that kind of what you were saying, Denise? Oops. Sean, it looks like we're just about out of time. If we want to focus on 5. Oh, good. There's another one. We focus on 5, especially if they're out of school. Enjoying activity, I agree, is key for physical health, but also mental. You're right. And I think we're all missing that a bit. So do we want to go on to the next part, to the survey and so forth?
So thank you all for attending. We are, like you said, towards the end. We had a standard 4 in there. Thank you, Eric. And just kind of going back to what we're doing for this series, it's all going to build on each other. So this first one, this is the foundational piece on talking about the standards, the standards and standards-based grading, and start getting our minds towards on what the standards are going to look like, especially during this time. Next week, we'll have Patrick Fine on. He'll discuss the rubrics, and then in 2 weeks, on the 17th, we'll have a group together, our team, our Health Moves Minds team, to talk about SEL and Standard 4 for sure. So thank you all for attending. In the chat, if you can take some time and do the survey that we have there. And then also a couple resources there through Shape America, CDC, and Mo Shape. Now the name of the website is still moaforthere.org, but it is Moshe, for sure. And then also my contact information. If you have any questions that you ever want to throw out there, if you need resources, have any comments about, you know, the presentation, some things that you want to see out of our presentations, feel free to contact me. I have my email there, sean.nevels@desi.mo.gov. And then my phone number as well. I can tell you during this time, I am working from home like a lot of you, so I am always by my phone. So always, always, always feel free to give me a call and reach out directly that way. If you do the survey, you will enter yourself for the $25 Nike e-gift card. I know you all are really excited about that. Most of you probably came on for that reason. So thank you for listening to our presentation and being a part of the work. Couple more. If you still haven't done so, make sure you register. I know Cody has messaged a lot of people, a lot of new participants we've had on today. Thank you for just jumping on. Make sure you do register through the website there. I did add that on, or I'm adding it on. So once again, going back just through the last couple slides here, once again, we have our webinars coming up. And then once again, those people right there. Thank you all. We're a little bit over time here, but thank you all for being on. Thank you for the conversation and discussions. We hope to have you on again next week as we open up and really start talking about rubrics. And then just kind of like we had our breakout sessions and open ourselves up more to talk and have these discussions so we can kind of start gaining that comfort as we get closer to fall and having our students hopefully in the building, but if not, instruction some way, somehow blended or virtual. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Always feel free to contact me. Thank you, Moshe. Thank you, Missouri. We'll see you all later.